Here, we take an example of cattle shed. Now, most of us have visited rural areas and we have seen the cattle sheds over there. So, these cattle sheds are actually maintained and supposed to be maintained at a specific level and for specific functions, for specific evaluations actually. So, for cattle shed, they needs to be maintained high ground in a dry place to drain off the water that enters it. So at a high place would also be helpful for protecting the cattle and the cows and any other animal inside it for against the insects and against various animals. Also on the second place it would be helpful for draining off the water that would enter the shed during a rainy day. The second point is the area of the shed should be such that they should allow to move them. They should allow the animals that are tied in the shed freely from one place to another. So the area shouldn't be really congested or very narrow or short. The area should be minimized and optimal for the cow or any cattle or any buffalo that has been tied to one pole to move freely from one place to another. So in this way, not only the movement of animals would be made easier, but also they wouldn't feel very suffocated in this way, because tying any organism, any living organism up would obviously make it really uncomfortable for them. So this is for the easing factor and for comforting them. The next is shed floor should be built on and tiled and should have the slope enough to allow the water to drain through it, the urine to flow through it. So now the shed will obviously have the roof and the floor. So what needs to be done for the floor is that it should have a very open area and it should be built at a height. So we know that the cows and buffaloes are not animals that would be using bathrooms and all, of course. So what happens is they'd be urinating at the same place, they'd be defecating at the same place, and for that reason whenever you have passed by a shed it would really be stinking. So for this, just to maintain the hygiene purpose, it needs to be built at a higher level, at a higher floor level, from where the urine, by chance even if any cattle or the cow or buffalo might have had urinated, the urine would be able to easily pass away from that high flooring and not make the place unhygienic and stinkings, and in return maintain the health of the animals. Because we understand that when animals are kept in such unhygienic and unclean surroundings, this would not only affect the surrounding around but also affect the health of the animal present inside the stable. So for that factor, the shed and the floor needs to be made at a height for the reason to allow the urine to pass through it. The next is the roof should also give them complete protection. The roof should be built in such a strong manner so that it provides them protection against the sun, against excessive sun, against the excessive rains and any other climatic conditions, and not subject them to the extreme climate. So that is why the roof also should be constructed in a very wise manner. And the drinking water, that is very essential for animals and for any other living organism to be consumed, should be kept at a close by distance from where, even if the animal is tied, the animal can go and consume the water and come back to the shed again. So it shouldn't be like it is kept at a very far away distance, but should be kept at a very minimal and optimized distance where the animal has free movement also and is tied up also for the reason to avoid any chaos, and can move freely to the source of water and consume it and come back. So the troughs meant for feeding the animals should be properly maintained. And in this way, I'll just repeat the whole part of this and summarize it to you for your better understanding. So first we understood by taking the instance of a cattle shed. What we understood over there was that the cattle shed should be maintained at high ground in a dry place and should allow the water to drain away. So obviously if water would be locked inside the shed, it would make no sense, and it would just make the animals in the shed more ill and unhealthy. So plus also it would be giving growth to various unwanted parts and unwanted organisms. So to avoid that, these sheds should be maintained at a high floor, at a high level, and they should be designed in a way so that the water that is trapped inside, or the water that we pouring during a rainy day, could easily flow off from the shed. The second point is, the area of the shed should be such that they should be allowed to move freely. So this is an important factor, because the animals, they need to be tied obviously to avoid the chaotic factors, the chaos, but they should also be maintained in this way. They should be tied in this way that the movement for these animals, like cows, buffaloes, cattle, should be easy. Also for horses, and it should be easy, and they should be comfortably moving around the shed, and they shouldn't have that factor of being suffocated or the chaotic part. The next is, shed floors should be built of and tiled and should have a proper slope enough to allow the urine passage. So this part I explained you with the factor that the animals like the goats, the cow, the horses are not going to be obviously using washrooms. So what happens is, they will be urinating and defecating at the same place, and to avoid the logging of urine and the defecated feces of animals in the same place, it is suggested to build a proper slope so that at least the urine, the liquid part of the waste matter from animals, is flown away and not locked inside, and it doesn't create a very unhealthy environment for the animals in the shed. So also the roof should give them complete protection. Now, if the roof is planned, the roof should be planned in such a way and built in such a way so that the complete protection against sun and against excessive rain is provided to them. Also, the drinking water should be kept at a very nearby place. So when the drinking water is kept at a nearby place, even though the animals are tied, it becomes easy for them to move around and to consume the water from the nearby place. The last but not the least is that troughs meant for feeding the animals should be properly maintained. So in this way, we understood about the food, we understood about the factor of shelter. Now, with these two relating down, let's understand about the health of the animals. For health of these animals, it is important to maintain cleanliness in their shelter. And maintaining cleanliness would not only help reduce the amount of these germs that would be present inside it, but also prevent the advent of diseases, the introduction of diseases in these animals' bodies, and further affecting their health. Along with just maintaining the cleanliness, that means letting the urine flow pass by and letting the water that is being locked to be prevented by just creating a little slope and building the shed at height, would be the basic steps of cleanliness. But also the usage of germicides, that means these germicides are the compounds and substances that have the ability to kill the germs that are present on the floor, and these are the ones that you might be most commonly using at your places too, in your houses, like the phenels and the other disinfectants. So these germicides, the usage of this germicide is going to help not only to kill the germs that will be present on the floor, but also reduce the germs and furthermore help in the process of maintaining the health of these animals. Then the next would be the protection against flies, and we know that in these cattle sheds there are many flies and many fleas roaming around on the animals, and these fleas and flies are the ones that are responsible for carrying germs along with them on their legs from the contaminated source to the healthy source. And in this way, if the animal is going to be wounded or bruised, this would not do anything but introduce these germs into the wounds of the animals and furthermore affect their body functions and make them ill in the end. So to avoid this factor, what needs to be done is to protect these animals against fleas and flies. And this can also be done by usage of germicides. Now what you need to do is, you might have observed this at some point, that when the floor is swept with a phenyl or a disinfectant or a germicide, what would happen is that the rate of flies that would be sitting on the floor would decrease drastically. So usage of these germicides would also be helpful for reducing the number of fleas and flies, plus protection of the animals against them is really important. Then animals are often susceptible to deworming because they have a lot of food matter that is not supposed to be consumed. But anyway, so the one step that would be helpful for killing the germs, the worms inside their stomach and intestine would be deworming. So deworming tablets are there. Now with a very basic and a very domestic example. You have a dog, supposedly in your place you'd be having a dog who would be breeding for years. So every time you take your dog to a visit to the doctor, where he usually is cured, he or she is usually cured, the doctor will suggest you the deworming capsules every time. That is because these animals, they have the tendency to eat the decaying matter and contract these worms inside the stomach, which would further suck the nutrition out of the body and prove to be hazardous, prove to be harmful for them. So deworming capsules and deworming medications are the most important medications for any kind of animal that would be present, or any kind of domestic animal, the animal that is being bred by the humans. After the deworming, the another step is protection of sheep against the ticks, lice and also the maggots. So these sheep, they have a lot of hair in them that is used for the wool, that is used for, this wool is further used for making the winter wear. And what happens is, since there's a lot of hair and there's a lot of humidity present in there's a lot of the temperature content is really high that is present inside the this sheeps. So what would happen is, it is a very feasible, it is a very affordable temperature and a place where these ticks and the lice can grow. The ticks and the lice, they can grow easily. And so usually these ticks and lice, they are found around the neck of the sheeps, around the anus area of the sheeps, and also in the body surface. So what would they do is, since these ticks and lice are responsible for sucking the blood out of the body of these sheeps, it would create a wound, it would cause a wound at the place where it had sucked the blood from. So that wound would be open, and over here the maggots are nothing but these are also a kind of flies that have the ability to transfer the germs from the infected source or the place where they have fed on the infected place to a healthy host. So what will happen is, these maggots get a free chance to sit upon these open wounds and further allow the entry of the germs inside the body of sheep, and this would further cause the disease to the sheep or to any other animal for that matter. See, these dogs have also ticks and lice with them, so it is also suggested to protect your dog against all these. So if you're not able to relate to the concept of the sheep, because probably not many people might have seen them, so dog is one common domestic animal that is found in every house, so it's very easy to relate. That's why I've been explaining it to you in that way. So in this way, maggots would infect them and would further make them ill, so it is really suggested to control the number of tick and lice present in the bodies of these animals. and to further decrease the number, to keep proper cleanliness, to maintain them routinely. In this way also the tick and lice can be maintained. The number of it can be maintained and reduced drastically. Also, there are certain diseases like bird flu and runnicate disease that have no cure. These cures have not been found for them at all as yet. Instead, providing them with medications would be a better option, just to take a preventive step. But there's no cure as such found for these diseases. So treating them, once an animal or a bird is infected with this, treating it is really difficult. So also for dogs, rabies is one disease that has no cure, and rabies has deathly and lethal outcomes for dogs. So once if you have that instinct in you that any of the animal, say dog or say the bird or any other breed, is infected and is ill due to something, what you need to do is immediately take it to a veterinary care. Now, veterinarians are the doctors that are responsible for taking care of animals, and therefore having a veterinary and a professional care is much more important for the animals like dogs or any other animal which is infected with a kind of disease that cannot be cured. Therefore, veterinary care is one better option to opt for domestic animals. Just for repeating it again for you so that you grasp it well, I'll repeat this whole part of health again. So, in health we learned first that cleanliness is the important part, where cleanliness needs to be maintained for the amount of germs to be reduced and for the amount of the diseases that would be contracted by the animals to be reduced to a drastic level, because clean surroundings would also be helpful in maintaining the health of the place. So usage of germicides. Now germicides are the substances or the compounds that kill germs. So using them to wipe the floors, to wipe any other place is going to be helpful, because lesser the number of germs, lesser the number of diseases that would be taken up by these animals. Followingly, the protection against fleas and flies is also one important part in the animal care. So fleas and flies, they have microorganisms and they have these germs, the bad microorganisms on them, and these microorganisms are responsible for causing diseases, of course. So as the name suggests, they are germs. So what would happen is, if they cause disease, the animal is infected, and also it provides a very less productivity of the goods. Along with that, it provides trouble to the animal themselves. So to avoid that, you need to be providing them protection against fleas and flies and control the number of fleas and flies. Then deworming is one important step that needs to be performed routinely, because since animals consume the waste, it is possible for them to have worms more easily compared to anyone else, any other living organism. Therefore, for deworming, it is important to have the deworming capsules that would be suggested by the doctor, the veterinary doctor. Then protection of sheep against the lice, the ticks. Now what happens is, since sheep are really hairy, it is really easy for these ticks and lice to grow in them, grow around the region of neck, grow around the region of anus, grow on the body surface and cause little wounds on their body. So these maggots are a type of flies, and these maggots would do nothing but infect them again and deteriorate their health, furthermore causing them the disease. Along with that, there are certain diseases whose medication is not being found as yet. So it is better to provide them with routinely medicines that would be prescribed by the doctor, rather than just leaving them in that way, because once the animal or any bird contracts the diseases like bird flu or the runnicate disease or even rabies for the matter of dogs, it is very difficult to recover them from that state, because there's no cure absolutely present for that. And if at all you think that your dog or your any other animal has contracted this disease, any other domestic animal might have contracted a disease that cannot be cured, it would be really suggestible to visit a veterinary and give them proper veterinary care. Because once the time has gone, the animal has the most chance to be
Choose the right kindergarten, a right bag, and matching bottle to go with. The right school, the right friends. Choose the right subjects and score well. Be an expert in all. The right teacher, and make sure that they like you. Choose the right timing, the right bus, and take a cab if getting late. The right train, and don't stand near the gates. Mind the pockets. Better get into ladies' compartment. And make sure your mustache hasn't started coming. Choose the right study time and forget games. IPL, IHL, rock and metal, guitar, axe. The right group and be a model to your brother. Seriously. Choose the right syllabus, the right test paper. Keep guessing questions for exams. Choose the right branch, the right college, the right stream. Choose the right career. Lucky to have a father's business to take care of and a father to allow that. The right counselor, the right form, and make sure the project is submitted on time. Choose the right website and rely on your friends for more information. Oblivious of the sites they have been to, there is no end to your woes. Getting better with every step you climb up the ladder. The summer vacation shorter, the bucket list bigger, the night darker, the books heavier. The only light you have is your friends ahead of you. Probably he is right. Ever thought how he got the direction? No more spending your energy and money on coaching classes. No more missing classes for rain, rally, and nonsense. Get your interest back in subjects through our creative ways of teaching. Doubts, concepts, applications, all explained through one vibrant animation. Subjects covered by multiple teachers with repeat telecasts. Special programs only for basic foundation and paper analysis. Personality development, career counseling, admissions, hobbies, all covered. A new approach to study with long-term perspective. So sit back comfortably in your homes and watch Study Spectrum TV channel.
So now we've actually spoken about animal husbandry. How is it useful for the human beings, along with the factors that needs to be maintained for the animals and for their health, their food and their shelter. So we understood that why do we have animal husbandry in picture. We have animal husbandry in picture. We understood that because we need better yield, we need the benefits from animal, we need our workload to get lesser. That is why we have animal husbandry. And also to gain a profit, a huge amount of profit. So following this, as the advent of technology, there was this one new phase that was developed, and that was the crossbreeding of the strains of animals. So now, if you say that there's a species of cow, the species of cow is going to be having many more strains in it. Like it will be divided into many more parts, many more types, and named accordingly. Obviously based on their appearance, based on their origin, based on the other factors. And in this way, we can understand about the crossbreeding with the example of cow. So what I'll do is, we need to understand that these technologies that have been come up have also helped to grow a variety of plants, but also these technologies have been applied to animals to get the kinds and hybrids of animals, and these hybrids are useful not only for the purpose of diversity, but also to give the better yield, which in return would help in increasing the profit margin. So in this way, whatever activities and events have been performed and discovered over the while, that is because of the human's curiosity to get the best for him. So we'll just understand with the example. Now what I'm going to write on the board is that there is this Indian breed of cow. Now the Indian breed of cow, an average Indian cow would give around 5 to 6 liters of milk. So I'll write it down for you. The Indian cow would give 5 to 6 liters of milk. Now if this cow is crossbred with a species of cow that's from outside, like the Jersey cow or the red Dean bull or the Holstein cow, so I'll just write that down first for you. The Jersey, Holstein or the Red Bull So these are the two kinds of the strains of cows we have. One is the Indian cow that you might have seen in India everywhere actually. The other is the cow breed from the foreign country. So the average amount of milk that is yielded by the Indian cow is going to be 5 to 6 liters. And the average amount of milk that would be yielded by this is going to be really way more. That would be like 20 to 25 liters. Or maybe 15 to 20 liters to have an approximate actually. So what happens is when these two strains are crossbred, like they are crossbred in this way, so a hybrid of this two species is formed. Over here, this hybrid is going to be formed, and this hybrid would be responsible for giving around 10 to 15 liters of milk. So what happened in crossbreeding was that one species, one type of animal from the Indian cow species was taken. Just one animal, one cow was taken actually. And from the Jersey Holstein or the Red Dean bull, another cow was taken, another animal was taken. And these two were mated. So after mating, the outcome of the cow that came up was the hybrid. And this hybrid had a capacity of giving around 10 to 15 liters of milk. And that was way more than the amount of milk we were originally getting. That was 5 to 6 liters. Now in this way, what happened is not only the quality and the quantity of milk was increased, but also the organism's structure, the hybrid's structure was way much more better. That finally resulted to this amount of milk that was way more than what we were getting earlier. And this added to increase the profit amount. So more the amount of milk, more the sale and more the profit. So in this way, hybrids are usually preferred over the originals because hybrids give a better quality and a better yield over the while, ranging and scaling up the profit margins. Also, if this is going to be a very expensive procedure because these Jersey and Holstein cows come really expensive. So what another condition is taken up is cows like the Dangi. These are the strains actually. The Bani. Now these are the actually there are more strains, but these are the two strains that have been utilized at a national level by Maharashtra to be crossbreeding and have a better yield and a better hybrid. So better the hybrid, better the yield of milk. Better the yield of milk would finally result to scaling up the profit because of the increased amount of sale and increased amount of quantity of the product that is obtained. So that is why the crossbreeding is usually preferred. Also, there are Kandhari and Khilari. These four types are usually used at a national level. For crossbreeding. So I'll repeat it again for you to understand it in a very clearer manner. So crossbreeding of these strains of animals would be nothing when two strains of two different breeds are got together, mated, and the final outcome is the hybrid. This hybrid is useful for getting a better yield and more yield that would increase the profit rate and hereby be helpful for the contribution to the GPA and also to the individual levels, and also increasing the quality of that certain product. So the example or the instance over here that I took was that there was an Indian cow that yielded around 5 to 6 liters of milk. Now this Indian cow was crossbred with a foreign species that would be Jersey or the Holstein or the Red Dean bull that are from the foreign countries. Now what will happen is they have mated, they've crossed over, and there's this one hybrid formed. This hybrid is capable of providing around 10 to 15 liters of milk, originally much more than the amount of milk that was obtained, that was 5 to 6 liters from one cow. Over here, one cow is giving you 10 to 15 liters of milk, and this in return is going to be helpful for increasing the sale rate. Increase in the sale rate would be helpful.